Hey y'all, it's that time again. It's time for Diary of a Physicist Farmgal. My name is Deborah, and I live here on my family farm in the foothills of the Arkansas Ozarks, where I like to do all the crafts. I knit, I crochet, I sew, I quilt, I make baskets, I make jewelry, I do needlework. I'll try any craft once and twice if I like it. And it is chaos and mayhem because we are fixing to have a big old storm bust loose, and I'm trying to get this done. So I just threw on a clean shirt, threw my hair up in a ponytail, and here I am. No makeup, no preparation, no nothing. Battery's about to go dead on my phone. Yeehaw, y'all. It's wild and western today. I am as I said, I like to do all the crafts, but I am also a professor of physics and astronomy at a local university where I teach courses to physics majors and to pre-med and pre-PT, that sort of stuff, and general education majors, and I'm very involved with our planetarium back in the day when we had planetarium shows, but things are getting back to normal, thank goodness. I think, well, no, the new normal. We don't want to necessarily go back to the old way that things were, because there were a lot of things that weren't working, because a gun and a taser ain't the same thing, y'all. They're just not, and if you can't tell the difference between one, you ought not to be carrying either one. Y'all might as well get ready for that. So didn't even get to the part about don't follow me on Twitter. Anyway, I am also a farmer. I'm a third generation family farmer here on my farm in the foothills of the Arkansas Ozarks, where I raise grass-fed beef cattle. I raise horses. I have heritage poultry. I have rabbits. I have a retirement herd of miniature horses, miniature donkeys, a miniature mule named Pumpkin who thinks she rules the roost, and of course, not to be forgotten, Princess Penny the potbelly pig. And before you forget, I have got a bunch of animals in here with me today because it's storming and they all rushed the door when I opened it like it was the beginning of a rock concert in the 90s and we all had to be in the mosh pit. Anyway, so I've got 14 dogs, and there's a good dog story coming up in farm life, so y'all hang in with me. And 7 indoor cats and an undetermined number of outside barn cats. Right, Willie? So if any of all of that sounds interesting to you, I hope you come along and join us for Diary of a Physicist Farmgal. If you're looking for us on social media, you can find me on Ravelry and on Instagram as Doc Firewoman. You can also find there is a group for the podcast on Ravelry and also on Facebook. I have started making better use of Instagram hashtags too, so check that out. I have lots of make-alongs and things going on. The two that I will mention right now, the first one is the April Mini Mal, which is Top It Off. There's a great interview with Logan from Leon Alexander Yarns where we talk about that make-along that you can go look at. So I encourage you to go check that out because you've still got time to get some stuff made. Also, we are working on the Long Dog Sampler Pandemic cross stitch, the Pandemic sampler, which is huge. And like me, some of us have gotten stalled out on it. So this weekend, April the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th, well, starting on Friday the 16th and running through Monday 19th, April 19th, we're going to have the Pansal Panic. Now, here's the deal. There's going to be prizes involved this time to kind of motivate people to work. So if you want to participate in you have to be stitching Pandemic to do this one. You have to be stitching the Pandemic Sampler by Long Dog Samplers. But if you want to participate in the Pansal Panic, then you need to get a hold of me because we're doing a bingo game. And the way it's going to work is I'm going to make bingo cards, and everybody gets a unique bingo card. And if you get a bingo during the weekend, the first person to get bingo will get a prize. But then we're going to hang on to our bingo cards and keep working on it, and the first person to get a blackout bingo gets a prize. So, but you can work on it. That bingo, that part goes on after the weekend. But this weekend, if you're the first person to get a bingo on your bingo card, you get a prize. Okay, so you can contact me through Instagram, through Ravelry, through the Facebook group, all those different ways if you want to participate, and I will make you a bingo card and I will give it to everybody. I'm not giving them out until this thing starts on Friday. Okay, so it will start Friday at noon, so I'll give them out probably probably Friday at noon by then, or you can get it anytime after that. But anyway, so yeah. Yeah, so we're going to kind of get those together. But the last thing I'll say, and you've already heard my rant at the beginning, Lord, this world we live in, y'all, some things need to change. Some things need to change. That's all I'm going to say. It's not right, and y'all know it. But anyway, if you don't follow me on Twitter if you don't like that kind of stuff. Because I share a lot of things on Twitter. I haven't been so active on there lately, but I share a lot of very socially liberal Democrat views. I'll just put it that way. If you don't like that kind of stuff, don't follow me on Twitter. Okay, so, but we believe, right? Just like Michelle from Bendy Stitchy says at the beginning of hers. If you don't like her, probably not going to like me either. Anyway, so that's all, and we will move on and talk about finished objects. Okay, if my podcast seems a little disjointed, it's because I am a little disjointed right now. We were going to go ride this morning, and it is getting ready to just bust loose a storming that was not predicted at all. It was supposed to, it was going to be done by 3 a.m., and now we are under a significant weather advisory for a very strong storm headed this way. So I'm going to quickly record a finished object segment and a whip segment. I did already recorded my farm life segment and my science segment over the weekend. That's just how it's going to have to be. No makeup, just in a hurry in here, quick recording this, so that I can get a podcast out. So finished objects. The first one I am wearing, I finished my Magic Spring shawl. My Magic Spring shawl, which was the knit along for the Happy Knits podcast. It's a free pattern on Ravelry by Kathy, and it is complete, and I finished it by the deadline, which was very exciting. It's a 3 skein ish. You don't use all of the 3 skeins. I didn't use hardly any of the first color, as you can see here. This is Lady Violet by Kim Marie Knit-Knacks. I used more of the second color because I actually used some on the end here. This is Hippie Chick by Kim Marie Knit-Knacks, and it's got sparkle in it. And then this is Unicorn Sprinkles by Expression Fiber Arts, and I did use up every bit of this skein. This was a 400-yard skein. This was a 460-yard skein, but I had used a little bit of it already. And then this was a 460, so I've got plenty of this color left to do whatever with. Very quick, easy knit, very easy potato chippy social knitting. But there it is. It's done. Yay. And I finished it by the deadline. So hooray for me for finishing something by the cow deadline. Now, I do have a quasi-finished object. Notorious Needles Stitch Along for We Believe. I'm incredibly behind on it because I've been focusing on a different piece of stitching. But in my April 9 Designs bag here, I have the center section is done. Okay, so the center section of the We Believe Stitch Along is done. Now, I'm doing the smalls patterns. They gave you a lot of options on this pattern. They gave you 2 different borders. They gave you the individual patterns with borders around them as smalls. That's the way I'm going because I'm going to make a mobile. So far, they've released Kindness is Everything, Science is Real, and Love is Love. All right, and I'm going to make a mobile to hang in my office for when I go back to campus in the fall. So, still didn't look up the needle, the Grime Guard, but I know the needle minder is by Boutique Pagey, and Real Unicorns Have Curves. So, I'm using the called for colors on this. As soon as I finish the one that I'm focusing on right now, I'll probably turn my attention to this one and the Lindy Stitches one, which I did not work on at all since our last podcast either. I have been focusing on one I'll show you in whips. Most of my finished objects are sewing items. I have been on a sewing kick. We had our Sewing Circle weekend this Sunday, or Sewing Circle Sunday. Those of you who don't know what that is, once a month, I have my Zoom room open for several hours. It's either on a Saturday or a Sunday, just depending on what works best for me. And it's basically just a sewing circle. You just check in. You don't have to engage. You can work. I mean, we're sewing on our stuff. We're cutting stuff out, but it's a great place to ask questions. Like if you have a question or a problem or you need an opinion, it's a great place to do that. And so, if you check in each hour, you get entered that many times. So if you check in at the top of the hour, you get 5 entries over the course of the 5 hours we were on. And I'm giving away gift cards to Joann Fabrics. So, yeah, so you don't have to be sewing. I decided to let other people come in and do other crafts because I realize not everybody is a sewist. But if you want to come, just keep your eye out on my Instagram, or I posted in my Facebook group for the podcast too when we're going to do it. And you just, even if you can only come and stay for a little while, you at least get 1 entry that way, and that's all it takes to win. So that has helped me get some things done. So the first thing that I will show is here on my Betty Boop Betty Boop dress form. I decided to christen my dress form Betty Boop because my mother's name was Betty and her name was Betty June, but this was her dress form, and now it's my size, even though I'm quite a bit taller than she was. So for those of you who have been with me for a while, you may recognize this fabric. It was the fabric that I used for my Roaring 20s birthday dress that we had a Roaring 20s birthday party a couple of years ago. And you can go back and find the video of everybody all dressed up as flappers and gangsters and all of that stuff. But I decided to be a fancy lady and wear, this is an Art Deco reproduction fabric from Spoonflower, and it was expensive. Spoonflower fabric is not cheap. It's very good quality, but it's not cheap. So I wanted to reuse it, knowing that I was never going to wear that dress. It was a ladies' day dress, and honey, it must have been made for people without any chest because it looked like a sack on me. So I cut it apart and I repurposed it. The only thing was it wasn't quite wide enough to make the skirt as full as I needed to, so I inserted these gores of this contrast fabric from my stash. This is the Aza dress by DG Patterns. It had some interesting construction to it. At first, I was like, but, and I did make a couple of modifications to it. I modified the neckline a little bit from what it's called for in the pattern. And the next time I make it, I'm probably going to lengthen the bodice some and make the bodice slightly bigger because it's supposed to be snug, but it's almost too snug for my liking. Almost, not quite. It is a sleeveless dress, and it's short-ish. It comes above the knee, and I'll probably wear it with like some pedal pusher leggings underneath it. But I like it. I'm happy that I've reused this fabric. Very pleased with it. But again, when I make it again, I'm going to lengthen the bodice some because I don't like where this hits me. Exactly. It's okay, and I'll wear it, but I would like it better if it were more down. My true waist is more right here, so I might lengthen it some. And also, I'm going to cut this just a little bit bigger up top. And I'm going to make the pleated skirt. It comes with 2 versions. It comes with a gathered skirt, which is what this is, and it comes with a pleated skirt. And I'm going to make the pleated skirt next. So that's one thing that I finished. Another thing that I finished, if you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen all this stuff, so I apologize for the repetition. I cut these capri pants. These are some capri pant length elastic waist pants. I cut these out about 3 years ago, right after I started podcasting. If you remember one of my very first podcasts, I talked about the little dog that had been hurt in the street and how I went with her to the vet. And I was very distressed after that, so I went and bought some fabric to try to make myself feel better. And that's when I cut these out. So these are just very straightforward elastic waist pants. This is a McCall's pattern. I don't remember the number, but I talked about it in my sewing video, I think. So you can go back and watch that. But I cut these out, so nice little summery capri pants to wear with sandals or whatever. So I got those done very quick to make up. This pattern also comes with 3 or 4 different top variations and 2 pant variations, so you get a lot for your money. Then this is the Concord tee by Cashmerette. This is the V-neck version with the long sleeves, and I lengthened this to the tunic length, and I actually lengthened it some from that because when I like my t-shirts to hit me down about mid-hip in case I want to wear leggings with them, okay? And that's where I feel the most comfortable with my leggings. So this is just in some gray knit that I purchased from fabric.com. So this is the Concord tee by Cashmerette. Some interesting construction. I had a little bit of foibles with this V-neck neckband. I don't think I read the pattern correctly, so the next time I make the V-neck option, I'll have to be more careful. Now, the leggings that I made, you remember this fabric from the leggings that I made? Well, I had enough left over that I purchased a skirt pattern from Hourglass Patterns, and I made myself a skirt out of what was left. So this is a cute little A-line, just elastic waist skirt here out of the extra fabric of this, specifically designed for knit fabrics. So we got that done. Then I made another Concord tee in the short sleeve colorway with the rest of that gray. And on this one, I made the scoop neck version. Okay, so it has three. That version has two lengths. It has three lengths. It has a crop, a mid, and a long length shirt length. Then it has three necks. It has a high neck, a scoop neck, and a V neck. And then it has two armhole or arm. Well, no, it has three arm lengths. It has a short, a 3/4, and a longer sleeve. Now, I will say this on the gray shirt, even the long length was a little bit higher than I wanted it. So I ended up lengthening the sleeve some also to get it to come down to I like my long sleeves to hit me at the top of my hand. Okay. I don't mind having some that are bracelet length, but if I want a true long sleeve, I want it to come all the way down. So this is just that gray knit. Again, I made it in the long length so that I could wear it with leggings. So Liberated has the matcha shirt, and I showed that on my sewing video. This is fabric from Mood. This is a cropped, it sort of reminds me of those 1950s jackets that were inspired by like the Chinese dynasty jackets, some of the formal wear from the Chinese dynasties. And this is a crop length with the 3/4 length sleeve. It will be great to wear. It has a couple of different variations on the neck that you can do. It has a shoulder placket, a little detail on the shoulder here. This is cotton voile from Mood fabric. So this would be to wear over a camisole or something, because you can clearly see through it. But I think the next one of these that I cut out, I'm going to lengthen it some. I like the crop length, but I don't like to have everything that length, so I'm probably going to lengthen it some. So got that done. I love that fabric too. That's a beautiful piece of fabric. I showed that in my sewing video also. Then these are going to be hard to show. Oh no, let me show this first. I had some leftover fabric from the other pair of leggings that I made. So I made yet another Concord tee, because you can't have too many staple tops, but I used the leftover Constellation fabric to make another short sleeved version of the Concord tee. Again, this is by Cashmerette. This is the scoop neckline variation also. Actually, I think that gray one was the high neck, and then this is the scoop neck variation. So this is the Constellation fabric that I had used on the leggings. Both those legging fabrics, remember, came from fabric.com. Then in the goal of repurposing, I had cut a dress out, I think, when I still lived in Oklahoma. So I weighed less then. I've gained probably, since I've been home, my weight's fluctuated, but right now I'm up about 25 pounds from where I weighed when I first moved home. Yeah, about 25 pounds. And so I gain a lot of weight in my chest when I gain weight, and I also gain it through my midsection. But I had cut this dress out, and I decided a couple of years ago to sew it up to take it to the fair. Well, it was too small. It was not too small around the waist, but it was not something I could wear. It was too tight up top. So I decided I would lop off the bodice and put a casing in it and make myself a skirt, because I love this fabric and I didn't want to just scrap it. That would be wasteful. So I thought, well, the easiest thing to do, instead of taking it all apart, just cut the bodice off. It's already hemmed. The seams are already done. Literally all I had to do was make a casing and put some elastic in it. Got myself a skirt. Okay, so the last two are both the same pattern. They're both the Hipster Dress by Ellie and Mac Patterns. I made the long version and the short version. I'll insert pictures to show what they look like, or I'll insert a picture of the long one, and then the short one is the same idea, just knee length instead of long, mid-length, midi, what they call midi length, which comes down to sort of mid-lower calf. Very fast to make. This is a cowl neck. It's kind of hard to show that on here, so I'll put the picture in of me wearing it here. It's a long sleeve dress with a cowl neck. It's got a side vent in both sides, so you can see how long that is. But it has pockets. It has pockets, which makes it awesome. And they're real pockets, right? They're real pockets that you could put real stuff in. Your hand will go all the way in them. Because this dress pattern has a pocket on it. So when I cut out the pleated pattern the other day and put it together, so I drafted a larger pocket on it. But this is the hipster dress by Ellie and Mac. This fabric is also from Mood, which I love this fabric. This is a two-way stretch. So it's not as drapey, and it's going to be a winter dress. This is going to be a warm dress, which is nice. Then this is the same dress made in a four-way stretch, also from Mood. This is some Ralph Lauren knit in this beautiful royal blue. You can see the cowl neck just kind of hanging down there. But this is the same dress, just in a different style of fabric, so it drapes differently. So this dress, I'm actually going to make a long sleeveless vest. I've got my eye on this fabric that I want to make it out of. And so the vest will come almost to the floor, and wear over this with like a cute pair of black boots or something. Okay, so that's all my finished objects. So the storm's not quite here yet, so we'll quick run through my whips. And it is going to be real quick because I only have two things that I've been working on. The first one in my April 9 Designs bag here is the Finding Balance shawl by C.J. Brady, or shawlette by C.J. Brady. I am making this in the Yoshi and Lucy Tits Out Collective colorway called Tit Cat. And I am to the point where I have started the decreases on this little shawlette. So the last time I showed it to you, it was down here. I had just done this little tail piece right here. So now I am up to the point where I am getting ready to start. I did my first row of decreases. So this is just a little shawlette. It does have a border or an edging on it that I'll put on after I'm done. So it's a nice little length, and I think it's going to stretch a bit when I block it too. So again, I love CJ Brady stuff because it's a great, if you got some One Skein Wonders in your collection that you want to use, I highly recommend it. Oh, and my little progress keeper is my Winter Wolf by Charmed and Dangerous. The lighting in here is terrible because I'm just trying to get through this before the storm comes. Okay, the thing that's been getting the most love for me the last couple of weeks, because it was an Abby Bella Stitch had done Stitch Asia, so I had started focusing on this after my last podcast. This is in another April 9 Designs bag, and this is the Chinese Zodiac. So this was a sal from last year. The last time I showed it to you, I was over here. Okay, so the last time you saw this, I think I had done this fan, so I think I was getting ready to start the horse. So all of this is what I've stitched since you last saw it. I did the fan, and I did all the little animals. This is the puppy dog, and then the pig goes right here, and then that'll be all the animals. And I'm just kind of working up with the filler. The way this came out is you got the center part first, and 3 animals, then you got the fill-in and the corner, and then you got 3 more animals to fill in the corner, 3 more animals to fill in the corner, and then 3 more animals to fill in the corner. So I'm just kind of working it all up at the same time. This is by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. I stitched it with a kit of theirs, so it used the call for colors. This was for last year's Chinese Zodiac, so it was the year of the rat. But I have some ideas about how I want to finish this, and I think if I keep working on this, I think another week or two will see me, week or so will see me finished on this. Because I'm about halfway done with the little dog. And then this color is the same as this border color. So to use up my thread, I just kept working around on my border here. So I got to join it up down here and then go on around. But yeah, so I'm getting close to getting done on that. I'm pretty excited about that. So maybe by the next time I podcast, it will be done. Yay. Those are my only 2 whips that I have been giving any attention to. I have others, but those are the only 2 I've been working on. So let's break it here and we'll talk about future crafting. Okay, the lightning's getting a lot closer, so I'm going to run through this really quick here at my cutting table because what I'm going to show you is all sewing. So the first thing is, I showed this pattern in my video, but this is the Rivermont Dress and Top by Cashmerette. I am going to make the peplum top to start with. And I have got some more knit. So I've got this sort of, it's called Oceana. There it is. It's called Oceana. It's kind of a turquoisey color. I'm going to make a peplum top out of this. And I should have enough left over to make a skirt or something out of as well, because I bought, I think, 4 yards of this. I've also got some navy over there I'll probably make it out of. The other thing that I'm going to make is the Schoolhouse Tunic by Sew Liberated. I put this together last night. The only thing I will say about this is this pattern, I think, must be one of their older ones because it's not very size inclusive. I'm actually going to have to cut larger than the largest size, I think, to get it to fit me. But I've got 2 fabrics I want to make this out of. First of all, this is an Alexander Henry fabric called Omen. It's got ravens and feathers and different things on it. So I like that. I think I'm going to make that, make one top out of that. And then the other fabric that I want to make it out of is this butterfly fabric. And this was another purchase the day that I purchased the fabric that I made the capri pants out of. So those are going to be my future crafting. I am still working on a lot of cross stitch things that I haven't given any love to, so I'm going to not start anything new there. And I'm also working on my sweater still. But I did work on it some since our last podcast, but it's a sweater. You're just looking at rounds and rounds and rounds. So yeah, so those things are going to get my focus and not start anything until I'm not going to start anything new. So that's all my future crafting. So let's talk quick about acquisitions. Okay, Bob Barker is not happy that I'm in here without him. So that's who you're hearing at the door out there is Teddy. I call him Bob Barker. Okay, I'm just going to show a couple of acquisitions. I have some patterns that I bought, but I'll probably do another sewing video at some point to kind of talk more in detail about the patterns that I've been making up. But I did want to show a couple of things. The first thing is a very sweet gift from Tyra. She knew that I wanted this Stacy Nash scissor book from the market. So this is Stacy Nash Designs, and this is I Will Cut You. Oh, so she was very sweet to send that to me because she knew that I had failed to get it at my local needle workshop. The other thing that I will show is not my water bottle, but I want to tell you about a great sticker company called Ace the Pitmation. So like Pit Dalmatian dog cross, okay, Ace the Pitmation, which is here, okay, they're on Etsy. And they are very focused on mental health and body positivity and equal, social justice type stuff. So I think that's really important. So I bought a few stickers from them. You can see there my Notorious RBG, and then In This House We Believe, all these things. And equal rights for others is not pie. I bought those to put on my water bottle that I carry to class. I'm going to carry to class with me when we go back in the fall. Got some other ones on here too, but those are the main ones that I will show you. This little guy, and this one came from Sipsy Wilder, and then this came with a pair of We Vibe shoes that I bought. But the rest of these are from Ace the Pitmation. Lots of stickers to choose from. They have really good sales, very reasonable shipping. So I highly recommend them as a company to check out. And that lightning was really close. So I'm going to cut it short here, and we'll move on and talk about science. Okay, so it's a different day. We're getting ready for Sewing Circle Sunday today, and I'm working on putting a pattern together. So I thought I would give you an update on what's going on in the science world. We are rocking toward the end of the semester. We are going back to campus as normal in the fall, which will be really good. Although I'm going to take some lessons from the things that I've learned from the pandemic and try to have a little bit more grace with my students and myself and my coworkers, because, you know, I think if anything else, this showed us just how vulnerable we really are as human beings and how we need those connections. Grace is finishing up her senior capstone project, and she found out she got the National Science Foundation Fellowship, so we were really excited about that. She also got offered a pathway internship at Johnson Space Center, but to get the National Science Foundation money, she has to be full-time her first semester. And that's a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money. It will pay her a living wage while she's in graduate school. In fact, she's going to be making about what I was making at my first job out of school. You know, so I told her, I said, you know, don't be too disappointed that you had to postpone the pathways for a semester. If they want you, they're going to be coming back, you know, asking about you and wanting you on their team. So don't be too disappointed about that, you know. I'm working on a workshop. I've been talking with Miss Marianne and my writing coach, Denise. I've had this idea for a women in academic leadership workshop for a while that has to do with horses and learning the how to interact with horses as a team member and as a leader, because women, and really men too, are not physically strong enough that you're ever going to force a horse to do anything that it doesn't want to do. So you have to kind of work in partnership with it. And I thought, you know, for our women in academic leadership, that would be a great concept to talk about. Let's see what else is going on. I guess that's pretty well the gist of what's going on campus. Tomorrow I'm getting together with some friends. You know, we're going to have lunch, which will be nice since we've, like I said, not been able to meet up since the pandemic started. And we're going to eat lunch outside. We've all been vaccinated, and we're going to eat lunch outside, and it'll be nice. I listened to my friend Ashley. She's working on her PhD in leadership or academic leadership. I'm not exactly sure what the program title is, but she's doing her proposal defense. So her thesis proposal defense is coming up. So she's proposing the research that she wants to work on, and then her committee will yay or nay it, I guess. And then, I mean, it sounded to me like she had a good plan of work. So when I listened to her practice talk, I thought it was fine. But I don't know anything about that stuff. So, you know, maybe they see something that I don't. But it sounds to me like it's going to work just fine. And book group is still going on. We read the section, and I mentioned it, I think, in my sewing video, but we read a section in the book Burnout about the bikini industrial complex and how our bodies have basically been weaponized against us. And part of the reason I wanted to start sewing again was sort of an act of resistance to that. You know, I've been told my entire life that my look is not attractive, is not acceptable, is not whatever. And you know what? I don't believe that. You know, and part of the reason that I have struggled with self-esteem issues and self-compassion issues is because of this bikini industrial complex. You know, it's a riff on the whole military industrial complex. Women's bodies have been weaponized against them. And so I'm taking that power back. Part of, you know, the sewing projects are a part of that. But I don't know what book we're going to do in the fall, but I'm sure I will be in on it. Having that group of women to support me has really been valuable to me. One thing that we are doing, and this is not science related, but it kind of is, you know, I talked about making sure things fit properly for comfort. Well, bunch of us women in this leadership group are going to go to a bra fitting session. There is a place in Conway that you can sign up for, and they will do a private consultation with you. And there's 4 of us that are going to go and kind of be moral support to each other. But that's pretty much everything that's going on in the science world. You know, we're just kind of rocking on to the end of the semester here. You know, there's some other things that I could talk about, but they're a little bit ranty, so I might save those for final thoughts. Anyway, yeah, so we're going to move on and talk about farm life. Well, I thought what I would do while I was cutting out a dress is record a couple of segments for the podcast. So, yeah, I'll get you caught up on what's going on the farm here. There's been a lot happening. Of course, the weather's turned off to springtime now, finally, and got to start thinking about the garden, and I need to get out and finish filling up the raised beds, which I'll probably do a little bit of that tomorrow. I'm planning on having my sewing circle Zoom group tomorrow, but it won't be until lunchtime. So if I can get around in the morning, I'm going to try to do the raised beds before noon. I've got about half of them done. Probably can get, I'm going to need to clean the rabbit hutches out and spread that out in the raised beds. I've already got some spring vegetables, so I've got like peas and lettuce and some kale already planted, and it's all doing fine. So let's see where to begin with what's been going on. Let's start with, well, kind of everything centered around the horse show weekend. So we had a little horse show with the Rainbow Rider group, and I hadn't really planned on riding in it. And Marianne was like, well, I bought the ribbons and you should, because I'm pretty competitive. And plus, you know, I don't like to show against everybody over at the barn because I am so competitive. And if you've been with me for a while, you remember my experiences at the horse show about 3 years ago, where I learned the powerful lesson of ride your brand. And I was kind of having flashbacks, I guess you could say, of that particular experience. And so I was pretty anxious about doing it. Of course, this time I'm riding Flame, my horse. And, you know, so that made it a little bit different. But, so, gonna ride in the horse show. Okay. So, everything, you know, horse show went great. Flame was really, really good. I put my paper scissors. There they are. Got my paper scissors and my fabric scissors, right? Flame was great. I couldn't have had a better show. She was so good. Rode really great in the pleasure class, and did just perfect in in-hand trail, and did great in the dressage. It was good. Our horseshoer and his apprentice, actually, who is a dressage rider, judged it. So, you know, it was nice. I enjoyed it. I felt like it was judged fairly. We did really well, Flame and I. We didn't do the extreme cowboy part because, first of all, we hadn't practiced it, and second of all, I don't have anything to prove. So I'm like, I roll my save versus doing that. But anyway, so we didn't do that part, but we ended up, got third in halter, which is not surprising because she's not a halter horse, and was not really in condition, which that's fine. And then we got first in everything else. We got first in in-hand trail, first in mounted trail, first in the pleasure class, and first in dressage. So I was really, really proud of her. She was just, we are finally together, and that is the most amazing feeling because she is a really good horse. So that was great. Now, I did have some weird flashbacks because, you know, Marianne texts me, oh, we've got lunch, KFC, we'll eat lunch, and I'm having flashbacks to when that happened before and everything. Except, you know, this time I'm riding my brand. I'm riding my horse, and that's fine. So, anyway, and I got ready up at the trailer. I took all my stuff up to my horse trailer and got ready up there. So, that was all good. I was really happy. Well, then after the horse show, a couple of things went really bad. First of all, Marianne's horse Gray choked. Horses can't regurgitate, and so if they get a buildup of food in their esophagus, they can choke, and it has to go down. It can't come up. And he had choked pretty severely, so I tried to help him with some, he had choked a couple of years ago when he had gotten bitten, and his esophagus had swollen, and I got him through that because it was down lower. I couldn't do anything for him this time. So they finally ended up calling an emergency vet out of Hot Springs, which we have a thoroughbred racetrack in Hot Springs, and there's a big equine center down there. They ended up calling that place, and the vet came, like, he was probably 30 hours, 32, 36 hours later after the choke had happened. Well, yeah, maybe around more like 24. It was a day at least before he got there, because, you know, he has other clients, and if you're not his regular client, you know, and plus we're 2 hours away. So he oiled him and got him through the choke, which we thought, okay, we're out of the woods. But she kept him up, and of course she freaked out about him choking and had his teeth done. And there's really no way to know it for sure why he choked. You know, it's just like with people. It's just bad luck sometimes. So and I said, well, you know, we're going to have to watch out for aspiration pneumonia, because that's a risk you take when a horse chokes, if you get that matter down in their lungs. But the vet had given him antibiotics, and I thought, okay. Well, we rock on to Saturday, the next Saturday, a week later. He's dropped a bunch of weight. I mean, lost a lot of weight, you know, just out of the blue. And, you know, so that's pretty alarming. And then you could just tell he wasn't feeling good. He was struggling to breathe. He had a heave line on his side where he was trying to breathe. And so we called the vet again, and they called me and said, can you drive us down there? And I'm like, of course. So on Easter Sunday, I went over there the night before and gave him some pain medication, because I happen to have some, it's called Banamine, and it's a pain medicine. It's most commonly used for horse colics as a pain medication. But I happened to have some, so I took him a shot, and the next day we left out at like 7 a.m. and going to Hot Springs, it's a beautiful drive, but it's extremely mountainous. Well, for Arkansas, it's extremely mountainous. It's down Highway 7 is one way you go. And I said, well, we don't really need to go that way. We need to go, kind of had to go around, so it was like 20 miles longer, but it was much straighter. And there's really only one mountain you have to cross. And since it was Easter Sunday morning, there was very little traffic out and about. And there were no log trucks, which was a bonus, because that area is part of the Ouachita National Forest, and they've been logging. And then there's some timber company land in that area too. So there's always log trucks on that stretch of road. So since it was Easter Sunday, we didn't have any of that, thankfully. But we get him down there, and I've got some video that I'll put in here, or at the end, I guess. I'll put it in at the end. They scoped him. They scoped his lungs. It was bad. Basically, I mean, I could smell, I hate to say it, I could smell him, and it smelled like death. And basically what was happening is the material aspirated into his lungs and essentially rotted. And he had severe aspiration pneumonia with abscesses in both lungs and fluid buildup in both lungs. Now, it was, as the vet said, walled off. So he wasn't displaying a temperature, but because he was having difficulty breathing, there were enzymes in his blood that was showing he was on the verge of colic. And so, unfortunately, you know, the options at that point were very limited. We could have taken him to an emergency vet in Oklahoma, which was about a 4-hour drive, which I said, I will drive him. I don't mind a bit. we will go. But the problem with that is they would have had to put in dual chest tubes, probably broken 2 ribs, and his lungs, they ultrasounded him and his lungs were abscessed, which meant his lung tissue was necrotic. So really the only kind solution was had to put him down. So the Monday after Easter Sunday, you know, I did not go, but I helped them coordinate with the backhoe guy about the logistics of digging a grave. And they called one of their local vet contacts, and he came out, and apparently it was very peaceful and it went very smoothly. But you know, that's Marianne's hard horse, and you know, you can ask yourself a million questions about why did this happen and how do you keep this from happening again, and sometimes it's just bad luck. So that's, you know, that's unfortunate, and it breaks my heart for her. And you know, it breaks my heart for her because she's had a lot of loss. You know, she's had a lot of loss in the last several years. And, you know, I realize when you get to a certain age, these things happen, but still it's hard to watch somebody that you care about have to endure that. So anyway, so we took care of Gray on the Monday. Well, then little known to me what had happened the morning of the horse show. When I was letting the big dogs out, they had swept Feathers out with them. The little tiny dog that was my mom and dad's, who is deaf and blind and old as the hills of Georgia, as my grandpa used to say. And when I got home from the horse show, I couldn't find her. You know, when I came in, I was letting the dogs out, and I'm like, Feathers, let's go out. Of course, you can't hear me, but I'm looking for her. She's nowhere to be found. So I freaked completely out. They're texting me about the horse and what should they do. And I'm like, going, I don't know. Call a vet. You know, I've got a problem here. And I had 2 problems, actually. The first problem was I came in and my female chocolate turkey, I don't know if Reese's did this to her or I don't know what happened. But she was crushed in the mud with a goose standing on top of her. I mean, she was still alive, but I could tell it wasn't going to be for long. Sometimes when the tom turkeys get too big, they can do that, and she was kind of a petite female, but he had never hurt her before, so I don't know. She was covered in mud. She was basically mashed flat, and her breathing was very labored when I came in from the horse show. So my good fortune at the horse show very soon was eclipsed by all of this, you know, and I was like, okay, so I took care of her, put her in a pen, you know, tried to make her comfortable and give her some, you know, some medicine to see if I could bring her around, and it didn't help. But anyway, so back to Feathers. So I'm looking through the house all over for Feathers. Can't find her anywhere. She is not in the house. I mean, and I started walking the pastures. I had my friend Kathy who comes up and helps me when I'm out of town. She came up and we walked my yard, which is pretty big. We walked the horse pasture. The next morning I walked the cattle pasture. I walked up and down the road. I called all the neighbors. Her picture was shared with the local vets and with the rescues and with the lost and founds. And my, you know, just on Facebook, I had like 200 people share her picture. Nothing. And I am just destroyed. I am like, you know, feeling like I'm a terrible human being, and you know, and like I've let my mom down. You know, we haven't not talked a whole lot about this, but at the end of my mom's life, I had some not altercations, that's a bad word, but I had some interactions with some healthcare workers where I feel like I should have been a stronger advocate for my mother. And I feel like I was not. And so I'm already kind of beating myself up about that situation. And then Feathers is missing. And so I'm like, I let my mom down again. And so we look and we call the people and we look, and I can get under the house and look. And and I look under the storage buildings, and I walk the pastures, and I put out food, and I put out her bed, and I, and this rocks on for 10 days. I'm just by the end of the first week, that Monday or Tuesday night, I had put her bed and put a bowl of food. Of course, the turkeys got into that, but put food out, and I had put her bed and a pair of my sweatpants that smelled like me and all this stuff out by the road, thinking, well, if she got out, because she's never left the yard before. Even when she's gone out, she's never, ever left the yard. So I'm like, well, somebody's picked her up or something terrible has happened, and I'm just, just berating myself. I mean, I'm just sick. Well, last Wednesday, last Wednesday, my friend Cheryl from high school sends me a message and says, is this Feathers? Because at this point, I'm sure she's dead. I'm like, something's killed her, or she's died of exposure. Now, luckily, it had not been super cold, and we hadn't had any bad weather, right? It had been fairly mild for this week and a half. And she sends me this picture, and it's Feathers. And this little family had come up the mountain, and she was literally right out here at this intersection in the middle of the road. And they stopped and got her and posted her on like Adkins Swaparama or something. And Cheryl's husband saw it, and she sent it to me, and I contacted them immediately. And they're like, oh yeah, we're coming back from Adkins right now. We know exactly where you live. We'll be right there. Y'all, she's fine. Now, she's thin. She's a little thin, but she was pretty chub to begin with. She's lost some weight. But other than that, she had a mat in her hair, and she had a tick on her. Other than that, for a dog that had been out, a little tiny 20-year-old deaf and blind dog that had been outside for 10 days, she's fine. I mean, I wish she could tell me about her adventure. I really do. Because, I suspect, and some of my friends suspect, that she was probably coming up here sleeping on her bed and coming up and eating cat food off the porch with the possums, and was just doo-waddling around out there enjoying life. And here I am freaking smooth out. And then I throw her bed away, so she's all perturbed because she don't have a bed. But Feathers is fine. She's fine. She's just assimilated right back into life here. She will never be out of my sight again when that door gets opened. I will always know where she is at. And if she goes out, I'm picking her up and carrying her out there. And I'm picking her up and carrying her back in the house. Because, oh Lord, y'all. Anyway, farm life. Ain't it something else? That's the thing about farm life. And we were talking about this with Marianne about, she didn't hide the fact of what happened to Gray from the kids at the barn, because if you own animals, this is part of what you have to deal with, unfortunately. And if you own animals, it's, we've been very blessed over there, or fortunate, or whatever word you want to use, that we haven't had a lot of trouble, because there are 22 head of horses over there, and most of them are mid to late teenagers. What it has done for me, though, is it has made me reevaluate breeding Gusty. And this is why. Gusty is also 18, which is how old Gray was. And it has made me reevaluate that. Ask myself, why am I breeding her? Am I breeding her because of what reason? Now, I know the reason. She's a wonderful horse, and I love her, and I want that disposition. But also, conformationally, she's small. I mean, she's too small for me, and I have to breed her to a smaller stallion so she can carry the baby safely. So now, I have to ask myself, am I breeding her for a good reason or for a selfish reason? Because all of my mares are well-tempered. you know, and there has been an increasing voice in my head that's urging caution about breeding her. And I don't know if that voice is just my anxiety or what, but that voice is one that I think I need to listen to. You know, because when you don't listen to that voice and then something bad happens, then you wish that you had. So I have decided that I don't want to breed her for the wrong reasons, and I don't want to jeopardize her health. So, I mean, I love her. She is the most wonderful horse in the world, but she's not conformationally perfect, and that's one of my criteria for breeding. I'm breeding. Attitude is really super important, and she has a wonderful disposition. And I know that her baby would probably have a wonderful disposition as well. But conformationally, she's not as strong as like Flame. Flame is much stronger conformationally. You know, she's a bigger horse. She's more suited to me. So I think that the responsible thing to do is not just to breed willy-nilly. You know, I'm not breeding for profit, really. I mean, you know, the horse, you never go into the horse market for you never go into horse raising for profit to begin with. But I just think it strikes me as selfish and irresponsible. So I have pretty much, I still want to talk to my vet before I make my final decision. But my vet is very hard to pin down this time of year because it's foaling season and breeding season, and she's extremely busy. But I think I've pretty much talked myself out of it because I don't want to jeopardize Gusty's health. You know, that would just kill me to think that I had done something that caused her harm. You know, 99% of the time, mares are perfectly fine. But when you've got that voice in your head going, hey, you need to think about this, I think I ought to listen to that. But anyway, so that's what's going on the farm. Been a wild and crazy ride last couple of, since I last talked to y'all. So I've got my dress cut out here, so we're going to move on and have a few final thoughts. Hi, Daff. Daff's in here with me because Willie stayed in the other room, but I didn't want to move my computer. So for my final thoughts today, we've been reading Burnout about the bikini industrial complex and about how women's bodies have been weaponized against us. And how I have thought about my own struggle for body acceptance and self-acceptance, and how so much of our women's value seems to be tied up in our physical appearance, about being thin and being classically pretty, or being young, or not having wrinkles, or being tan, or not da-da-da-da. Hi, Simon. Anyway, there was a poignant piece that was put up about, my body. I just stopped asking my body what it needed. I thought, well, maybe it needed more water, maybe it needed exercise, and it just said, can you please love me like this? And I think that was really important. But I found this reading that kind of, I need to print it out and put it everywhere where I can see it. This is a piece by Bridget Anna McNeil. I don't know the name of it, but it's on her website, bridgetannamcneil.org. As darkness fills the sky and the stars come out, do you lie there recalling where you left your power? Inside the hands and minds of toxic people, within the gray places and unsafe moments. Why not instead evoke a lullaby full of brave, tender feelings carried on kind-hearted words that wrap your soul in heartfulness that calls your power back to you? Whisper into the night, your heart, your bones. Remind yourself that your power has only ever belonged to you, not to any other body, mind, place, or moment, no matter what they led you to believe. And as you lie within the darkness, let yourself feel it growing, mending, resting, and thriving. Never leaving, never taken, always yours to hold, remember, and awaken. So I've had some waking up that I've needed to do for a long time. I'm sure that's not an unusual thing. And I want to make something positive out of the last year where I've had time to think about who I am and what I believe. And I've gotten more resolve in what I believe, and to speak out when I see wrong, and to be a better advocate and ally, and to be better to myself, to love my body the way it is, regardless of what anybody else says about it. Even if it's not the strongest, even if it's not the most beautiful, and then sometimes it's not the most healthy, but I have to love it the way it is because it's what I've got. Anyway, I hope you are all doing well. I hope that you're taking care of yourself. I hope that you have been able to get a vaccine. And I hope that you are getting enough sleep, and you're taking time to remember that your power is yours all along, and that you will find a way to reawaken as well. So until I see y'all again, y'all be good to each other. I'm watching the lightning out the window. Y'all be good to each other and take care of each other. Until I see y'all again, peace out, y'all. Bye.